Dear friends, welcome to UGC CEC online lecture series. I am Dr. Divya Verma Gakhar, Assistant Professor in University School of Management Studies, Guru Gobind Singh, Indraprasth University, Delhi. We were talking about the topic of capital structure in the series of lectures related to financial management. As we all understand that capital structure is a very important decision for a company, because it is about deciding a blend of debt and equity mix of a company. Debt is always considered to be a cheaper source of finance for a company, and equity is costlier than the debt. But debt as a source of finance has got its own risk because it increases the solvency risk of the business. And equity capital also comes at a higher cost. So each source of finance has its own cost and benefits. As a company has to decide which mix of capital structure they should have in their company. Now we have discussed about the relevant school and the irrelevant school of thought related to capital structure theories. So we have talked about net income approach, net operating income approach, and traditional approach for the capital structure theories. Fourth theory which we are going to talk about today is Modi-Gilani and Miller approach. It is an irrelevant school of thought. As per Modi, Gilani and Miller, they suggest that capital structure decision is an irrelevant decision. That means capital structure decision or the debt equity mix of a company is not going to affect the wealth of the shareholder. So it is immaterial for a company to think about that, okay, the mix of debt and equity they are going to have is going to affect the wealth of the shareholder in the stock market or the price of the share in the stock market. How they have tried to explain this theory, let's see. Now this Modi-Gilani-Miller approach has taken some assumptions. The assumptions of this approach include that there are no taxes in the market, there's a perfect capital market that exists, there are no transaction costs, and investors have got homogeneous expectations from the market. As per Modi-Gilani and Miller, they state that the firm's value is independent of its capital structure. How? With personal leverage, shareholders can receive exactly the same returns with the same risk from a levered firm and an unlevered firm. Thus, they will sell shares of the overpriced firm and buy shares of the underpriced firm until the two values equate. This is called arbitrage process. Now, they have talked about two terms. They have talked about creating personal leverage rather than corporate leverage. Friends, we have already discussed about the concept of leverage. Leverage is use of borrowed capital so that you can get advantages over the equity capital returns, or the return on investment for the equity capital can increase by use of borrowed capital as a source of finance because it has got fixed cost attached to it. So they have taken an example of unlevered firm, a firm which has got no leverage, that means they have zero debt, and a firm which has got leverage, that means they are using debt capital. So what will happen, how they have tried to explain this theory, that whenever there is a levered firm, a firm who's using borrowed capital as a source of finance, in the short run, such kind of company will have an advantage of having higher return on investment or having better value of firm, or the price of the share will be higher in the stock market. If there are two firms whose nature of business is similar to each other, and one is having debt capital, which is in the short run having higher market value, and there's another firm which is unlevered, which is having no debt capital, because of which their return on investment is high, or their return on investment is not as good as the levered firm, so their wealth of the shareholders or the value of the firm will be lower in the stock market. So what do people have, the investors' tendency is? So what investors do, they play with the arbitrage. So if there are two companies which are similar in nature, one share price is high, another one is low, so people will start doing the arbitrage process. So arbitrage is buying and selling at the same time so that you can take advantage of differences in the prices and earn riskless profit from the market. So what people will do, those investors who have already invested in the levered firm, because the price of the levered share is higher, they will sell the levered share and they will use that amount. So whatever returns they will get, they will use that amount for buying the share of the unlevered firm, because it is cheaper, it is priced lower in the market. And this process will continue, this buying and selling will continue. So what will happen, if there will be more selling of the levered firm share, then the price will start falling. And if there will be more buying in the unlevered firm share, so the price of that share will start rising. And investors will keep on doing this process of arbitrage till the time both the unlevered firm share price and the levered firm share price equate. Then people will have, or investors will have, no advantage of selling from one company and buying the another company's share. So till that time, this arbitrage process will go on. And thus, ultimately, in the long run, it will be seen that, the market price of the levered firm share and the unlevered firm share is similar to each other. So that means there was no advantage of choosing a capital structure or taking the capital structure decision as such an important decision that it is going to affect the wealth of the shareholder, because in the long run, we could see that it doesn't affect the wealth of the shareholder. And in the process of getting the advantage of leverage, people will create their personal leverage. So investors will have their personal leverage. That means in their personal possessions, they will borrow some money so that they can play or they can take advantage of the benefit of borrowings, which can definitely give higher returns to the shareholders. Now, so the value of the firm can be calculated as expected operating income of the company divided by the discount rate of the applicable risk class. So they explain that the use of borrowed capital will not lead to any change in the overall cost of capital of the company. That is why it is an irrelevant decision. So this arbitrage process has been explained by taking an example. So the earning before interest and tax, let's say for an unlevered firm and a levered firm is same, 1,50,000. A levered firm has got some borrowed capital, it has got some interest on debt, and but an unlevered firm has got zero interest on debt. The equity earnings of an unlevered firm is 1,50,000, and for an equity earnings for an unlevered firm are 90,000. The cost of equity capital for an unlevered firm is 15%, comes out to 15%, and for a levered firm is 16%. Market value of equity is 10 lakh for the unlevered firm, and for the levered firm it is 5,62,500. Cost of debt for the unlevered firm is 12%, and for the unlevered firm is 0, and for the levered firm is 12%. Market value of debt for the unlevered firm is 0, while levered firm is 5 lakh. Market value of firm for unlevered firm is 10 lakh and levered firm is 10,62,500. Average cost of capital comes out to be 14% for the levered firm and 15% for the unlevered firm. So overall cost of capital for a unlevered firm is higher as compared to the overall cost of capital of a levered firm. So suppose an investor, he owns 10% of equity in the levered firm. If he sells his shares, he gets 56,250. He can borrow rupees 50,000, that is at 10% of else debt at 12% rate of interest. Thus he creates his personal leverage. He can buy 10% of used equity for rupees 1 lakh. So his total collection will be 1,06,250. But he can invest 1 lakh rupee in the unlevered firm and get a surplus amount of 6,250, and yet his income remains the same. So his total income will remain the same as rupees 9,000, and he is able to generate greater income if he also invest additional rupees 6,250. So this Modi-Gilani-Miller approach suggests that cost of equity for a levered firm equals the constant overall cost of capital plus a risk premium that equals the spread between overall cost of capital and the cost of debt multiplied by firm's debt equity ratio. For financial leverage to be irrelevant, the overall cost of capital must remain constant, regardless of the amount of debt employed by the company. This implies that cost of equity must rise as financial risk increases. So as per the Modi-Gilani-Miller approach, if we see it graphically, so cost of debt remains constant and it is lower than the cost of equity. And by increasing or by employing more debt capital in the capital structure, cost of equity is going to rise. With the increase in cost of equity, because the amount of benefit which the company will get by using cost of debt, it will be offset by the increase in the cost of equity because of use of more leverage. And so the overall cost of capital will remain constant. What are the determinants of capital structure? On what factors capital structure depends on? Capital structure decision will depend upon the amount of financial leverage or trading on equity the company is having. It is going to be affected by the growth and stability of sales. Those companies which have stable sales, they can rely on more of borrowings as compared to those companies who have unstable sales and who are lower on the growth curve. Cost of capital, how much is the rate of interest to be paid on loans or debentures, and how much is the cost involved with equity capital? That will be an important factor in deciding how much capital proportion mix a company is going to have. Cash flow ability to service debt. So those companies who have enough cash flows to make the payment of borrowed capital, that can become an important determinant on deciding that how much debt capital the company wants to keep. Nature and size of firm is an important factor that helps a company determine. So those companies which are bigger in size, they can borrow more and they can afford to make the payment of loans also. So usually we see that they have got more borrowed capital. Control. If a company doesn't want to dilute the control of the equity shareholders, then having more debt in the capital structure will be a good idea for such companies. Requirement of investors. What does the investors expect from the company? Does the investors expect that the company should have more debt capital, or they expect the company should issue more equity shares? Based on that, a company can decide. Capital market conditions. Sometimes the market conditions are not very favorable because of the macroeconomic factors which are going on in the market, because of which a company can think of delaying the decision of coming up with an IPO or not issuing the shares to general public, but to borrow money for the time being. The asset structure of a company is an important point to be noticed while deciding what mix of capital structure. So if a company will have more of fixed assets in the asset structure, then using it through or financing it through equity capital will be a better idea for the company. Purpose of financing. For what purpose they need financing? If they need financing for the purpose of launching a project which is more risky in nature, then the company should think of issuing more of equity capital rather than the borrowed capital. Corporate tax rate. If corporate tax rates are high, then debt will become a very cheap source of finance. So accordingly, a company can think of employing some amount of leverage in the capital structure. Cost of flotation. So how much is the issue cost of raising money through equity capital or by issuing debentures? What is the cost of issue expense a company has to pay? That is an important consideration while deciding that whether a company would like to take a loan or would like to issue debt capital or equity capital in their capital structure. And what are the other factors that can affect capital structure of a company? One such factor is corporate taxation. So how much taxation or tax rate is there? That definitely affect the amount of leverage a company should have. So if we look at this concept that the unlevered firm who have no debt, and if we want to equate its value to the levered firm, so value of levered firm will be equal to value of unlevered firm plus the amount of borrowed capital a company has to pay multiplied with the tax rate, because on borrowed capital, on the debt capital, a company gets tax advantage. So it is the present value of interest tax shield that has to be added to the value of unlevered firm to get the value of levered firm for the company. Second important aspect while deciding capital structure is agency cost. Now, what are agency costs? Agency costs are those costs which are associated with monitoring management to ensure that it behaves in ways consistent with the firm's contractual agreements with creditors and shareholders. So those people who are attached to the company or associated to the company, they have lent the money to the company, and the owners are different and managers of the company are different. So it needs to be checked and a balance need to be maintained that those people who are managing the money of rest of other people, they are using it genuinely and they are not misusing the amount of money. So that is why with this agency cost came the concept of corporate governance, which is right now ensuring that the top management is doing business ethically, is following certain rules and regulations and guidelines, and they are not messing up with the amount of the money invested by the various parties. So this monitoring can include bonding of agents, auditing financial statements, explicitly restricting management decisions or actions. There can be monitoring cost as well, like bankruptcy cost, that tends to rise at an increasing rate with financial leverage. Now, what is bankruptcy cost? So by having more borrowed capital in the capital structure, there is a cost of financial distress which a company can face. Specifically, bankruptcy costs include legal and administrative costs along with the sale of assets at distressed prices to meet creditors' claims for the company. With increase in financial leverage, cost of servicing debt increases for a company and probability of distress also increases. This bankruptcy cost or the cost of distress which can increase, it's a kind of indirect cost for the company in terms of when a company invests in risky projects, when there is reluctance to undertake profitable projects, there is premature liquidation which a company can face, or there can be short-term orientation towards all aspects of the company. So whenever we are calculating the value of levered firm which has got leverage, it is always calculated on the basis of value of unlevered firm plus present value of tax shield benefit of the debt, which is a benefit which a company gets because debt is tax deductible, minus present value of agency cost, which a company will have to employ certain measures so that to ensure that the funds of the companies are not misutilized, and present value of bankruptcy cost. So that also has to be subtracted from the value of unlevered firm. So this in total will give us the value of levered firm when we are trying to compare it with respect to an unlevered firm. Now, there is a concept of financial signaling. Financial signaling it recognizes that market participants do not have homogeneous expectations. Managers typically have better information than investors. Thus, financing actions are interpreted by investors as signals of managerial expectations for the futures. So what kind of signals does the company is giving and what does it convey is what this concept talks about. Managers will issue new equity shares only when no other alternative exists or when the stock is overvalued. Because otherwise it will give an indication to the rest of the investors in the market that okay, something is, they will take certain meanings out of it. Investors recognize this, so new stock sales are treated as negative signals and stock price falls because of it. Managers also do not want to trigger a price decline, so firms maintain a reserve borrowing capacity. So they do borrow, but their borrowing capacity is reserved. Managers avoid signaling adverse information about their company by using internal source of finance. So most often, so that no such outside signal should go to the investors to which they will react positively or negatively in the stock market, companies first of all try to use internal source of finance as a source. They also borrow, but then they would borrow in certain limits and they would try to look for equity issue only when they find that the stock is overvalued. There's a pecking order theory which is practically used by the corporate sector in everywhere. So usually we have found that various researchers have found that firms follow a specific financing order. First of all, they would always use their internal sources of finance. Second, if they further need some capital requirement, they would draw on marketable securities. Then they would issue borrowed capital if more money is required. Finally, and only as the last resort, external equity issues come up. Now let us also talk about capital structure practices followed by Indian companies. Based on various researchers' research analysis, retained earning is the most preferred source of finance, followed by debt and then equity. It is also found that firms do not have specific capital structure in mind while deciding as to how best to finance their projects. Low growth firms prefer more use of debt in their capital structure vis-a-vis high growth firms. The large firms prefer making bonds issue in the primary market. Very few firms use hybrid securities as a source of finance to protect bondholders from the firm shareholders taking on risky or unfavorable project. Earning volatility, tax advantage of interest on debt, and credit rating are important determinants of debt policy of big firms. Capital structure choice is influenced by factors such as growth, cash flow, size, and product and industry characteristics of the company. It has been found that equity share capital is considered as the most expensive and long-term debt as the least expensive source of finance. The low cost of debt due to tax advantage of interest and long procedures involved in the issue of equity capital has led to strong preference for the debt by the managers of the company. So keeping in view all of these things, it is found that companies do prefer to use a mix of debt and equity because debt has got its advantages in terms of it being a cheaper source of finance because it has got tax advantages, it is available at a fixed cost, but equity is always considered to be a costly source of finance. But there has to be a blend of, or a company should always try to look for achieving an optimum capital structure. So if a company is able to achieve the optimum capital structure or have a mix of debt and equity, then they'll be able to have some advantages, or you can say that capital structure will definitely affect the wealth of the shareholder. That's all for this topic. For any queries, you can write an email to us. Thank you very much.